asked Danny Rowe the question post-match about whether he could give the Rangers fans a bit of encouragement about the in terms of the chance of getting them back from Spurs next season on another loan. First of all, how impressed have you been with him this season? And secondly, can you give the Rangers fans any encouragement as to whether he'll be back next season? What do you think? What do you think the chances are?
Putting a lot of pressure on my shoulders there, Scott. Listen, well, one, to answer the first part, hugely impressed. I mean, listen, the thing that the first time I think I, like a lot of people, were kind of, first 5, 6, 7, 8 games of the season, you're going, I'm struggling to see where the hype is around this kid. Obviously not helped by the brand of football that the team was playing under Russell Martin at that time, how strict and how regimented it was. It felt like he was playing with shackles on, really. He was sort of locked out to the left-hand side and denied the ability to sort of do that sort of roaming that he likes to do. I think Danny Rowe came in and said, listen, shackles off, go and do what you want. Not a free roll, but listen, you're a player that takes risks, so go and take those risks. And I think that's made a world of difference to him. I remember, I think you were there with me as well, the day at Dens Park where he scored twice, I think it was, back in sort of, was it October time, November time?
Certainly scored once, scored a goal just on the edge of the box, didn't he? Yeah.
Maybe I'm had it in my head he scored 2, maybe I'm wrong. And he came into the press room after the game, and where a lot of guys had sort of a lot of the new signings seem to be sort of a bit shell shocked by the reaction they'd had at times this season. I admitted they'd never seen anything like it. It'd taken them time to get used to it. He said something I've really heard from a player like, no, that's been brilliant. I've needed that kick up the arse, basically. It's going to do wonders for my mentality. This is what playing for a big club is. If you can't deal with it, then you're in your fold. And I think from that moment on, he has grasped the enormity of playing for Rangers. He's been one of the few guys, 18-year-old, youngest player in the squad. He's been a leader at 18. He's been a man amongst. At 18, he's been a man amongst men. I think it's just so impressive. And his numbers. I said this on Hotline Live last night. I don't think his numbers are massive. I think that was maybe his 6th goal. You might correct me. I think it was his 6th goal this season. I think he's got a handful of assists as well.
Yeah.
But it's more about what he does for the team, the feeling he gives to the team, the energy he brings to the team. It's not something that you can measure in just goals and assists. I think I'll always go back to that game against Hibs around Christmas time at Ibrox, where Rangers had just sort of played themselves into a stalemate, a standstill. They were just knocking the ball back along the back line, into midfield, back to defence, going nowhere. And he was the guy, 18, going, give me the ball. I'm going to dribble. I'm going to take players on. I'm going to run at Hibs. Listen, he didn't score. I think Rangers won the game with a Manny Fernandez header from a free kick. But I just don't think Rangers were getting into the final third without him that night. And so, yeah, I think he's got a terrific future ahead of him. I think he's going to be a superstar, frankly. Whether Rangers get back next season, I'm really uncertain in that. I mean, I think a lot of people jumped on the quote. As I said, you spoke to Danny Rowe after the game. I spoke to Mikey Moore for the Monday papers after the game, and I sort of asked him, like, will your future depend on what happens to Spurs? And he said, yeah, I mean, basically, I've still not really get any clear indication yet. I need to go back and speak to people at Spurs. I love it here. If the decision is to send me back here, I'd love to come back. But I think people have jumped in that and read a bit much into it. I think it's still undecided. And listen, we still don't know. Well, frankly, we don't know what division Spurs are going to be playing the next season, because right now there's every chance that they end up getting relegated because they are in a tailspin. And then, we don't know who the manager's going to be. A new manager might come in and go, this is a kid I want to build my team around. Or he might come in and go, he's definitely got a bright future, but he needs another year of football under his belt. As I say, he's only 18. He's not 19 until the summer. The Premier League's still a step beyond where he's at. Right now, I think the likelihood is he goes back to Spurs. I think Rangers would have to put on a really attractive sales pitch to get him back. listen, there's undoubtedly the move's been great for him, but Spurs might decide, right, they want me to go to another level of football. If they're going to put me out on loan, they might want me to go to a bigger league, a more technical league. And then, but listen, it really comes down to, if they end up in the Championship, I think you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to be using him to get them out of there.
It's no what we want to hear, but I can see it being a summer saga. The Mikey Moore to Rangers story. I tend to agree. I mean, look, if Spurs go to the Championship, he'll definitely go back there and play. You would imagine, the cuts that they would need to make with the drop in finances going to the Championship, I think would be huge. If they stay up, I think they're about to appoint another man. Looks like they're going to get rid of Igor Tudor and get another manager in between now and the end of the season. You'd imagine that will change again in the summer. But if they stay in the Premier League and they get a new manager, a lot of talk, it could be Pochettino, for instance, once he's finished with the USA at the World Cup. You would imagine, and the reason I say it'll be a saga, as you can imagine, Mikey Moore will definitely go back there, you would think, for pre-season. It'll be a chance for him to impress a new manager. And Rangers will probably need to play the long game with it if they really want him, because it might be a case of a new manager putting a Spurs squad together, having a really good look at Mikey Moore, needing them for pre-season, friendlies or whatever, but it might be late in the window when the squad's put together, a kind of new look squad's put together at Spurs.
A bit like the Ryan Kent situation a few years ago when Rangers eventually had to pay £7 million, but they had to wait several weeks to get him once he'd been away with Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp in America.
It'll be late before Spurs probably decide, right, do we keep him for this Premier League season where he's maybe on the bench quite a lot.
The thing as well, Scott, is that being a young player, being a homegrown player, he doesn't have to go into their 25-man squad that they have to register. It's a bit like the UEFA squad here. Like, they don't have. They can register him at any time. They don't have to make a decision on being in that 25-man squad. So
the good. I think if Rangers fans are looking for positives, I do think if it comes down to either if it's going to be, if he's not going to get a game with Spurs, I don't think Spurs will put him out anywhere else if Rangers are interested.
I think Champions League football would be a big lure, a big big weapon in Rangers' armoury in terms of negotiations. If they could say, listen, he's got a league title winner, like, and that would, he'd obviously have to win the league title this season, but if they could say, listen, he's got one league winners medal under his belt and the most intense, fiercest title race we've seen in years. So that'll do wonders for his experience, and then you can throw in, right, and he's going to get 8 games at a really high level in the Champions League. That might help convince him.
That would be massive. But I think even European football, and the fact that if Mikey Moore's got a couple of options on the table, because of the experience he's had at Rangers, because he now knows the club, he's got a relationship with the fans, brilliant relationship with the manager, that would tick a lot of boxes in terms of where to go for next season. If it's a choice between Rangers and just say high-end championship like a Sheffield United or a Norwich or something, for instance, I think Mikey Moore himself would look at that and say, no, I'd rather go back to Rangers. Do you know what I mean?
I think that is the important thing. It's the choice. If it's another loan, and especially if you can throw in the lure of Champions League football, I think Rangers would be his first choice. I think he spoke so warmly about the club, and he's been sincere with how warmly he's spoken about the club, the fans, the manager, his teammates. But the thing I think that maybe counts against Rangers is the boy's own ambitions, the boy's own belief in himself, because clearly he thinks he's got it. I mean, he came up here talking about wanting to be one of the best players in the world. He thinks he's ready now, and I think if Spurs were to give him any encouragement, as in, okay, you'll be involved next year in the Premier League. Obviously, last year he was in and around the Europa League squad when he got to the final. I don't think he played much in terms of domestically, certainly in the Premier League. I think if they said to him, you can be involved in the Premier League squad, I don't see him turning that down. I think thinks he's ready to play in the biggest league in the world, and I think that is the thing that will ultimately count against Rangers. If he thinks he can get a sniff of playing first team football at Spurs, yeah, I would think that would be something he'd feel that he was ready to have a shot at 19. Which, you know, fair play to the kid if that is what he believes. As I say, I think he's destined for huge things. Just judging what I've seen so far, I think he's only going to get better. Touch wood. I really hope he stays clear injury. If he can add he's obviously still young. He has his up and downs moments. But I think right now we're seeing more and more up and less down. So yeah, I think he's destined for big things.
Just on that, in terms of the Premier League, one kind of slight fear I've got, and this might be a bit of a wild theory, but he's a big Millwall fan, Mikey Moore. He's obviously a London boy. Millwall are in the mix, to get promoted. Alec Neil, Scottish manager, keeps his eye on Scottish football. Rangers and Celtic will know exactly how Mikey Moore's done at Ibrox. If Millwall were to go up either automatically or via the playoffs, you'd think Millwall would look at him, knowing he's a Millwall fan. As I say, knowing he's a London boy. For Spurs' point of view, we'd maybe think, get him out. No, keeps him close by, get some Premier League football. Obviously, wouldn't be able to play against Spurs, but that's not really that happens all the time. That might be a slight concern. I think Rangers fans might not want Millwall to go up in case that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. All I'd say to that is, I think you've seen it enough with Rangers, young players going out on loan. If you're, developing players to come and play for your team, I think you have to choose wisely in terms of who you send them out to. And I haven't seen an awful lot of Millwall this season, but I imagine them going into the Premier League, they're going to be pretty robust. They're not going to be pretty expansive. They're going to be pretty back to front. They really get room for. I'm trying to convince myself here. They really get room for a young 18-year-old up and down winger. Is he really going to be? Is he really going to play every week in that scenario? I'm not so sure. I think maybe the Rangers is probably the best place for him. Playing every week, playing in big games, pressure, 50,000 fans every week, playing the right brand of football. Yeah, I think it's an easier case to wait for him to come back to Rangers than to go to the Den.